As much as I love the main series of Pokemon RPGs, I will be the first to admit that they've been improvements, but they've been very incremental compared to most other Nintendo franchises, which really aren't afraid to take radical new risks and reinvent themselves from iteration to iteration. Pokemon has the improvements have been very incremental, and Game Freak has been very conservative with the formula that originally was created for an 8-bit monochrome system. And they've made improvements, but compared to what could be done, they've basically played it safe. Part of this reason is because the target audience for Pokemon is obviously a lot younger than a lot of other games where the appeal is probably going to be a lot wider. But so you have this sort of revolving door audience of, say, maybe 9 to 13, where they're probably only going to play 1 or 2 generations consecutively before moving on and losing interest. So with that in mind, they really don't have to improve it radically, improve it significantly from iteration to iteration in order to satisfy their their target demographic in terms of age. Whereas, if you see it in a lot of the reviewers, when Pokemon first came out, it was, a pretty big deal. It changed a lot of people's ideas of what a portable game could be. For both the kids that are playing at the time and for older players. EGM, for instance, gave the original Pokemon games excellent reviews, and even they noted, we're surprised we're giving a Game Boy game this much credit for, shaking things up. Whereas, as I keep saying, with each generation, they've really sort of said, it's too much like the previous one. They really need to shake things up like Mario does, like Zelda does. And I was nearly on the verge of making a big article on this on my site when about a year ago now, Game Freak said that we're making a new Pokemon RPG that's going to be a significant advance over the previous generation. And that game that was announced a little bit later, I thought it was going to be for 3DS. Now we know that's Pokemon Black and White, and that game has been out in the US since March, and I bought it in March, but I have not played it. I decided, even though I purchased it, I decided to leave it wrapped up and not touch it because I didn't want to get distracted from my college studies and from other responsibilities. So now that I'm out of college for the semester, I cracked it open and played it. I've avoided all the spoilers for it, and when I say avoided the spoilers, I mean I literally did not look at the game or learn about the game any more than the first initial screenshots when they first announced it. I became aware of the fact that the setting was based on New York. I knew the name of Team Plasma, and I knew the names of some of the cities. That's really all I went into the game knowing, because when I play a game, I do not like to know anything more than what's on the back of the box. Now, on the back of the box of this game, it tells you effectively nothing. As I played it for the first time, I learned of these improvements. So when I played it, the presentation is, for the first time, the presentation is finally getting to the level of what you would expect from a modern video game, which is saying a lot. And I was very surprised when I first went into battle and the sprites were fully animated. That's a really nice surprise, and that's something, especially something like that, as much as it was seriously needed, even since they probably should have been doing this since the Game Boy Advance. But the fact that they went in and animated all those hundreds of sprites for the battles, that's something they could have easily not have done and still sold just as many copies. So I'm very encouraged to see them putting in that extra effort, and I'm very pleased to see that the clock is visible on the battle screen at all times. And that is something that I think many more DS games and 3DS games now should have done. Well, 3DS, you could just press the home button and see the clock at any time, but on the DS, most games should have had some sort of feature where somewhere on those two screens there should have been an on-screen clock. I actually bought a Nintendo DSi XL for this. I have a 3DS and a DS Lite and the original DS. So this is my first time buying a DSi. I bought the DSi XL specifically to play Pokemon Black and White on, because as you know, I grew up in and around New York, so the fact that Unova was inspired by the New York City metropolitan area, I had a really close personal unique stake in this game, or interest in this game, so I really wanted to experience it in the biggest way possible, since the setting alone makes it a major wish fulfillment fantasy for me, kind of. So I got the DSi XL, and let me warn you, if you want to save your money, do not get used to this, because you will get totally spoiled on having these screens be this big. And of course you could enjoy this perfectly on any system, but with the improved presentation and visuals of Pokemon Black and White, you will definitely get the most out of it on a DSi XL. And furthermore, I've only played I've played an hour into it, and the reason I've taken an hour to get as far as I have is just because I wanted to level up my team to level 8 before I went into, what is it? First city is Nuvema Town, then it's, not Strident City, then it's Nimbasa? No, not Nimbasa, that's in Manhattan. The second town is Accumula Town, which would be the equivalent to Flatbush. But anyway, so I'm in Accumula Town now, and I just got out of where the Professor Juniper gives you the tour of the Pokemon Center. I like the fact that the shop is now inside the Pokemon Center. I don't know if all the time it's going to be like that, but I like the fact that the shop is inside the Pokemon Center, because that makes more sense, because then you could think of it like the Pokemon Center is basically, it's sort of like in Twilight Princess, where the guy gives you the lamp so that you buy his oil. So it's sort of like they're giving you the free medical care to make it easier for people to own Pokemon, and because they have the free medical care, now they'll want to buy stuff from the shop, and that's how they make their profit. So that makes a lot more sense just logistically in terms of world building. And it's more convenient. The music I enjoy a lot, and having got up to that point in the game, which you can get through in like 20 minutes, I was surprised when Team Plasma has been introduced immediately after that little section. I haven't played past there yet. I've just started playing. I've like an hour and 50 minutes into this game, and I was surprised that Team Plasma was introduced this early on. And all I knew about Team Plasma was that they're the new evil team. You know, Team Galactic, Team Aqua, Team Magma, Team Rocket. And I didn't know what the gimmick of this team would be, and I was surprised that they're basically PETA, or the Animal Liberation Front. They're basically an extremist animal rights group in the Pokemon world. You know, saying, you know, is it right to, you know, be catching creatures from the wild and be using them mainly for battles and holding them inside Pokeballs? And I'm surprised Game Freak went there, because that is something that lots of fans have sort of casually, or, you know, discussed in depth in forums, or just casually just thought of, like, you know, in the real world, you know, fighting animals like this is, you know, huge in most societies is taboo and morally reprehensible, and you can go to jail for it. So even though it's sort of, you know, not as, you know, nowhere near as brutal as real life, you know, animal fighting, but why is this sort of senseless activity morally acceptable and wholesome in this universe? And so I'm really shocked that Game Freak went and put an animal rights group into the game, and I'm interested to see where they go with the storyline. And the fact that Team Plasma has been introduced this early on, it has my hopes up that the storyline will move very quickly and be very, that the game's adventure will be very dense with story. And in the previous games, to a certain extent, the story is sort of somewhat of an excuse for the game. It seems already like there's lots of character interaction already in ways I haven't seen yet. I haven't played Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum yet, so I may have skipped a step there. I've played Red, Blue, I played Generation 1, Generation 2, and I've played the Generation 2 remakes on the DS, the Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so I skipped Gen 4, but it seems like there's going to be a lot more character interaction in this game than there has been previously, and it looks like the presence of Team Plasma is going to be a lot more important than just an excuse to move the story along and have a couple of dungeons where you go into the evil base a couple of times to fight them. So I'm very interested in seeing where they go with the story and what Team Plasma and is all about, and who this end guy is. And that's pretty much mostly what I have to say. My team right now, I have a level 8 Snivy, whose name is Edward. I have a nameless Lillipup, who's at level 8, and I have Lillipup, I named him Stepney, after the locomotive from the Bluebell Railway. And I have a Patrat who I haven't named. I'm probably just going to raise him just for the sake of evolving him. But I have to say, Patrat, I'm surprised at this moveset so far. I expect him to be like, another Ferd or something like that. And I'm surprised on Route 1 that I have not seen a Pidove yet. I expected, the basic, easy to catch bird type to be, immediately after you step out of the first town. So I'm really interested and impressed so far with what I've seen. Of course, I expected to like it, but I'm surprised that the game is already this dense with story interactions. Nuvema Town. In the game, in the southern part of Nuvema Town, you'll notice that the southern part of the town is built over a pier. And if you actually go to Coney Island, specifically the neighborhood called Sheepshead Bay, if you go to Sheepshead Bay, a part of Sheepshead Bay is actually built over the water on a pier like that. And you actually can't tell that you're on the land is suspended over the water on a pier unless you're looking at it from the other side, which is sort of what you get in the area camera view of Nuvema Town. So maybe coincidental, but there's once again a real world parallel to New York City there in the analogous towns from Nuvema Town to Coney Island and Sheepshead Bay. So I'm probably going to be able to supply a lot more trivia like that as I progress through the game. And as I mentioned before, Cumula Town, which is where I'm at now, would be sort of the equivalent of Flatbush. And I have not played past the cutscene where you encounter the Team Plasma protest and encounter N. So I'm going to probably maybe once every week or a couple of weeks give my impressions, or maybe I'll just wait till the end and say what I feel. But that's my first impressions of Pokemon Black and White, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. And I'm definitely going to savor this. I'm definitely not going to rush through this. I'm going to take my time and really enjoy what this game has to offer. So thank you for listening to my first impressions, and thank you very much for watching.